Module 2, EFT 420. Today I'll be talking about intrinsic and extrinsic motivation and how they impact student learning. First, just a little intro. Motivation plays a huge role in how students behave and learn in the classroom, obviously. And then there's two main types, intrinsic and extrinsic. And according to research by Deci, D-E-C-I, Deci, I'm going to assume, and Ryan, these two help explain why students either engage deeply in learning or just do the minimum to get by. And understanding this difference helps teachers create better learning environments for each student, no matter how they come into the classroom. Intrinsic motivation overview. Intrinsic motivation is when students do something because they enjoy it or find it interesting. Research shows that this type of motivation reflects a natural desire to learn and explore. And then, for example, a student might need to read a book just because they like the story, not because they were told to. It's a pretty straightforward example, but extrinsic motivation overview. Extrinsic motivation is driven by outside factors like rewards or consequences. And this could be working for a grade, a prize, or even to avoid a punishment. And while this type of motivation can be effective, it depends on external pressure rather than personal interest in something. Intrinsic motivation details. So to define it clearly, intrinsic motivation means to do something because it's personally rewarding within you. In classroom, this looks like curiosity, asking questions, or going beyond the assignment. Research shows that intrinsic motivation leads to deeper learning and better long-term engagement because students really care about what they're learning. Compared to extrinsic motivation, extrinsic motivation means doing something for a reward or to avoid consequences. Examples include studying for a test just to get a good grade or finishing work to avoid losing points. Research also shows that when students rely too much on rewards, it can actually reduce their natural interest in the activity over time. So when you compare the two, the main difference is source of motivation. Intrinsic motivation comes from internal interest, while extrinsic motivation comes from external rewards. Studies show that intrinsic motivation is more connected to long-term learning, while extrinsic motivation is often short-term and task-focused. So getting an assignment done or just doing the homework just to get it done with, compared to going above and beyond a project. A project could be both actually, but a project you go beyond the rubric, you exceed expectations, that would be intrinsic, and then extrinsic would be just doing enough to get even a B. So in my field experience, I saw both types of motivations. I feel you see it a ton in physical education. A lot of students will just get by just for the effort points for the day. They'll do what they have to do. They'll change enough clothing and they'll go up to the teacher at the end of the day and be like, did I get my points? To figure out where the line is of right where they need to be, compared to other students would be thrilled that we're playing whatever, volleyball, basketball, whatever it is, and be pumped up about it all week and tell all their friends, and they'd be excited for it the entire day. They'd show up and the bell rings and they're still playing. That's really the difference I see in my field experience. Scenario analysis. So this connects directly to research. A study published in a medical research journal explains that intrinsic motivation is linked to stronger engagement and better overall functioning, while extrinsic motivation depends more on outside factors. In my example, the intrinsically motivated student showed deeper learning and more impact, while the extrinsic student lost interest without rewards and just got by, just did enough. Didn't really have real meaning. In conclusion, both types of motivation are important, but they affect learning differently. If you are going for more deeper understanding and long-term success, something that would really stick with the student, you're going to go for intrinsic motivation, but you also need to know who the student is. And then for extrinsic, can be useful, but mostly just for a short-term grade, short-term goal. just getting past the unit. As future educators, we should focus on building intrinsic motivation by really getting to know our students, encouraging curiosity, encouraging meaningfulness, and just really trying to make a difference in our students' lives. And then the sources I used include Decky and Ryan, and a peer-reviewed article on motivation, and then another one by it's PubMedCentral.gov. It's good stuff. Module 2.